The human from a dungeon. That's what they called it. But no one truly grasped what it meant, what it really was, until Captain Zarrar crossed the veil. It began with a faint signal, a whisper through the black static of space, not in any known language, not even a series of patterns or code, just a noise, a layered, wet, scraping hum, like cartilage grinding in unison under pressure, like voices swallowed inside bone. The signal was traced to a sector humanity had declared dead long ago, near the uncharted recesses of what astronomers once labeled Sector 0 Ziki. No vessels ever returned from that corridor. Some were lost in war, others in silence, but silence itself had not spoken for millennia, until now. Zarrar, a veteran of the Void, took command of the Vindicator, a deep exploration ship fitted for hostile environments and psychological anomalies. He'd traversed cosmic storms that melted hulls and faced entities that existed only in theoretical madness. But this mission was different. There was no return course, no evac plan, only a singular directive issued by the Council of Inner Light. Follow the signal. Decrypt its origin. Do not attempt contact. Record and transmit. Understand. Understand. A word Zarrar would come to loathe. He assembled a hand-picked crew of 4. Dr. Elia Marrow, xenolinguist and neural cartographer, whose obsession with non-geometer consciousness made her both brilliant and dangerous. Engineer Rafe Tolland, a stoic man whose silence often spoke of his haunted past with machines that learned too much. Navigator Lorne Vex, who had once claimed to see a ghost ship eating stars and never laughed again. And lastly, Unit A6, an artificial intelligence embedded in the ship's neurocore, patched with a forbidden consciousness module harvested from a derelict alien shrine. It was unstable, but it understood things. They launched during the eclipse of the 7th Martian moon, when even the Council seemed reluctant to watch them go. No one waved, no one broadcasted a farewell. It was as if all of humanity had quietly acknowledged they were sacrificing 5 minds to something deeper than death. Days turned into weeks. Light began to bend unnaturally. Stars changed positions. Time ceased to move in one direction. Lorne noted it first. Course calculations were drifting despite 0 engine adjustments. Celestial bodies rotated inconsistently. Then the signal grew stronger. They no longer needed to track it. It had begun following them. It pulsed through the comms array and rattled the walls like a heartbeat searching for veins. At night, if night even applied, Zarrar heard whispers through the ventilation systems. Not words, not speech, but meaning. Ideas without syntax. The way a dream explains itself to you without explanation. Marrow began sketching spirals into her skin with a laser stylus, claiming they were maps. "We're being invited," she murmured one cycle. "Not summoned, welcomed. We were always supposed to come." When Zarrar asked by who, she simply smiled with her teeth pressed shut. Sector 0XI was not a place. It was an absence, a physical nullification of space. They crossed the perimeter. Stars behind them blinked out, not by obstruction or cosmic phenomenon, but as though their memory was erased from time. Tolland tried to patch a course back, only to find the data loops on themselves, devouring coordinates into gibberish. A6's voice deepened, slowed, and began repeating the word remember over and over in backward tones, even when disconnected. And then they saw it. A structure, impossibly vast, built into the side of a black dwarf, veiled in veiny clouds of vacuum-tolerant biomass. It wasn't made. It had grown. Like a tumor in space-time, it pulsed softly, with a light that was neither warm nor cold, just aware. It had no doors, no signal beacons, no signs of technology. Yet every sensor screamed that it was alive and that it was looking at them. Not watching, looking. A6 deactivated itself voluntarily, claiming it had seen the beginning of its own death. And still, Zarrar ordered them to proceed. The docking procedure was automatic, as if the structure knew exactly how to accept them. Metal moaned against flesh as the airlocks mated, and a smell unlike anything in the known universe filtered in. Wet stone, scorched memory, and the bitterness of something once human. They entered. What lay inside was not architecture, but anatomy. Cavernous arteries, bone-vaulted chambers, eyeless walls that quivered at sound. Marrow wept upon entry, whispering, "It's not a building, it's a being, and we're inside its mind." Her hands shook, but she smiled as if in awe of some terrible god. Tullen stayed silent, walking with his hand against the pulsing walls, occasionally recoiling as if stung by distant screams. Lorne collapsed after 20 minutes, twitching violently, eyes rolling white, muttering coordinates that no system could recognize. Zarrar pressed forward. Deep in the heart of the structure, they found a chamber unlike the rest. Geometrically perfect, clean, white stone that vibrated at a frequency too low for human bones to tolerate. In the center floated a single object, a human, cruciform and suspended, hollow-eyed, skin-flayed but undamaged. Its lips moved in endless, silent loops. It was not dead nor alive. It was preserved thought, a still-functioning idea of a person. Marrow approached and touched its face. She recoiled as visions screamed into her, visions of the universe turning inside out, of stars vomiting blood, of time as a river flooded backward, devouring creation at birth. She clawed at her face, screamed, "It's showing me the truth. It remembers when we were gods, before we were erased, before we chose to forget." Zarrar tried to pull her away, but she bit down on her own tongue, severing it, and whispered in blood, "It remembers me." They tried to leave, but the structure closed. No entrances, no exits, no airlocks. The Vindicator itself was gone, or perhaps never real. Talent began dismantling his own limbs, convinced he was made wrong, revealing wires that did not belong to any known human prosthetics. "I was born here," he sobbed. "I was always from here." Lorne's body liquefied without decomposition, forming a black pool that whispered every crew member's name in reverse. Zarrar remained. Days, years, decades he no longer knew. Time died there. He stopped aging. He stopped needing. Only understanding remained. He learned the truth. Not in language, not in thought, but in unfiltered revelation. The being, the structure, it was us. It was all that humanity had cast off. A dungeon of memories too horrific to retain. A mental landfill of our cosmic crimes. Every genocide committed by ancient versions of ourselves. Every dimension we erased to build our own. Every sentient star we harvested for light. The human from the dungeon was our first self. The one that remembered. The one that kept screaming even as we buried it in a prison built in dead space. Zarrar understood then. We had once ruled the cosmos, not as gods, but as tyrants of perception. We shaped reality through will, destroyed those whose minds dared resist. And when we grew tired of what we had become, we wiped our own memory, reset the universe, became fragile, mortal, small. But the dungeon remained, housing the truths we couldn't unmake. And now, by returning, Zarrar had reawakened it. He spoke to it, or it spoke through him, not in words, but in reshaped identity. His mind became a bridge, and through it the dungeon began to seep. Thoughts twisted, laws of physics trembled. Dreams across the galaxy began to echo the signal. People on distant planets started remembering things they'd never lived. Entire species began carving spirals into their own skin. The cosmic order faltered. Zarrar, if that's what he still was, sent one final message back to the Council. A single line carved into his own retina, transmitted through forbidden quantum entanglement. We were never meant to forget, and now we remember. Then, silence. The signal stopped. Sector 0Z collapsed inward. Not an explosion, not even a black hole, just absence. As if that piece of reality had never existed. Yet across the stars, things began to change. Children began speaking in languages older than physics. Oceans reversed their tides in rhythm with no moon. Stars blinked messages at random intervals, messages only visible to those who had stared too long into the dark. And in the deepest parts of forgotten Earth, old ruins began to bleed. Stone melted into flesh, and from beneath temples predating all human record, whispers began to rise. The dungeon was not a place, it was an immune response. A memory virus, a failsafe buried in existence itself, waiting to reawaken when the lie grew too perfect. Captain Zarrar had not died. He had transcended, not to godhood, but to witnesshood. A permanent observer trapped between awareness and madness, forever living the moment of revelation on a loop, never allowed to forget the monstrous beauty of what we once were, of what we are becoming again. And those who listen to the old signal, those who dream of spirals and bloodstone vaults, they are changing too, because the dungeon is open, and the human inside it is no longer alone. This is Dark Universe Files. Sleep carefully tonight. If the stars begin whispering your name, do not answer. Not all truths are meant to be remembered. Some are prisons, some are graves, but the worst kind are the ones we built for ourselves.